looking at sort of the numbers, what shocked me is that just how many teams are sort of in the relegation battle or even
Yeah, yeah.
I
And even
kind of
sides who were mid-table last season are slumping to relegation spots like Stoke and
right.
West Ham.
So I think maybe we should start at the bottom with Stoke City, who uh, who are literally at the bottom of the Premier League with 1 point, which is the opening match they draw against Middlesbrough, and then they have lost sort of every single match. To be fair, they have played some tough sides in terms of Man City,
Yeah,
Everton, and then Tottenham. But losing 4-1 to Crystal Palace is perhaps less excusable. So in
yeah. And in fact, sides like Everton, Spurs, and City were teams that Stoke gave a hard time to last season and
right.
the season before that. So it's clear that Stoke have slumped since last season.
So what are some of your reasons, or what's your opinion on why this is happening? Because Stoke, as you mentioned, has been a mid-table side. I believe they finished ninth for the last three
Yeah,
seasons. It's pretty easy to
yeah.
remember. So what do you think has gone wrong?
I think it's time Mark Hughes reinvigorates that spirit of players about being as direct as they can, because he actually admitted it in a match interview 2 weeks ago that so Stoke want to make sure that they are the old Stoke City again, who are that physically robust and strong side who
Mm-hmm.
physically, especially at home, kind of call once upon a time. Mark Hughes, in an attempt to make sure that they plays more attractive football, has players who are and has in fact brought in more fair. Tony Pulis' side had. So although this has helped the position in the table, it's time to go back to the time when Michael Robertson dominating.
Okay. Yeah, I have sort of 2 points to add to that, as I actually did look into some of the numbers with Stoke, and so there's a pretty good article about Mark Hughes as a manager on StatsBomb.com by Ted Knutson, and his conclusion is that Hughes is sort of the epitome of the average Premier League manager, and I've just looking at sort of the statistics on basically his teams for Blackburn and Man City have generally averaged around 13, 14 shots.
Even Queen's Park Rangers with that.
Right, and sort of the shots on target have been pretty consistent, and sometimes he's had better teams like Man City and he's done better, and sometimes he's had sort of worse teams and done worse. Now with Stoke, what I found interesting is that the shots per game are at 11 this season as well, which is basically the same as the last three seasons. The only difference was 14 and 15, where they were averaging 13 shots. But the big drop off is shots on target, where they've been at 3.6 for the last 3 years, and this season in 5 games they're at 2.2. So that's taking away almost 1.5 fewer, or even something like 40% fewer shots. And then, and then the percentage of their shots that reaches the target has been around 30 to 33%, and this season they're at 20%. So that's a pretty big drop off there. And on top of that, they're allowing almost 2 more shots against. So just sort of slight number drop off there, but they can really add up. And my second point is the Jack Butland factor, which is courtesy of I saw this really cool graph on WhoScored.com, which says that since beginning of last season, when Stoke has Jack Butland in the starting 11, they have 13 wins, 7 draws, and 11 losses. With about 1 goal scored per game and 1.2 conceded. And in the 12 matches where Jack Butland has been injured, they have 1 win, 3 draws, and 8 losses with 0.83 goals and then 2.67 conceded. So those, I think, are some pretty telling numbers. But overall, do you see them getting relegated, or do you see them somehow turning this around?
Yeah, I think they will turn this around because Wilfred Boney is slowly getting used to the Stoke City style of play, and he's obviously someone who gets a lot of goals for the team he plays for. And Bruno Martins Indy has been brought in as well. So as time goes by, I think Stoke will improve, but a finish as high as 9 seems unlikely as of now.
Oh, I think that's probably out of the question at this point. I think I haven't really looked at sort of any simulations. It would be interesting to see, although like the counter example is Borussia Mönchengladbach, who lost all 5 last year and still finished 4th.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do that. All right, I think that's probably enough about Stoke. But another sort of team that's still in the relegation battle, which was even higher last year, is West Ham United. The Hammers have just 3 points with the one win was the one against Bournemouth, which I happened to watch. And then they have lost 3 on the bounce to Man City, and then 2 consecutive 4-2 losses to Watford and West Bromwich, not exactly the high-powering offenses. So what's wrong with West Ham?
Yeah, I think West Ham have always been a side who are defensively sound and organized at the back, and have always been a tough-to-break-down defensive unit. But last season, Stoke conceded only 5 goals in the 5 opening games, and that acted as a foundation as to why West Ham finished quite well. That's last season, and but this season they've already conceded 13 goals, and they conceded 4 to West Brom and Watford. Will probably finish below them, and as we predict them to finish below West Ham, so it's quite clear that defensively West Ham have deteriorated quite a bit, and Slaven Bilic even admitted that we can't concede so many goals. It is fundamentally defending as a team, and if you add individual mistakes, it becomes too much. So it's clear that he knows that defensively West Ham have to improve, and I think the loss of James Tompkins to Crystal Palace has hurt them a lot, because he was someone who knew how to organize the West Ham back four. And with Winston Reid currently out and Sam Byram's also out, West Ham used Howard Nordwhite at right back, who had a pretty bad game at right back. So, and even Angelo Ogbonna hasn't had a good start to the season. So defense is a really worrying problem for Slaven Bilic. And another thing that I would like to point out is that they lost the aura of the Upton Park, which was clearly really fearsome last season and season before that, because they lost 3 games last season, and none of them they hardly lost. They didn't lose a single one of them to a big club. They lost 1 to Leicester, who we don't consider to be giants. Leicester, Bournemouth, and Swansea. And this season they've lost 1 already. So this clearly proves that they are slightly awestruck by the venue they're currently playing in. Much like Spurs, who lost to Monaco in the Champions League fixture, they seemed over. So West Ham are slightly getting used to playing at a bigger stadium, and the atmosphere that Boland Ground had is still missing, and that's one of the reasons why West Ham as many games as they are right now.
Right, I would agree with a lot of those. I think the Tompkins point is one that I really like. The thing I would add is probably just some sort of the quality of shots that they're conceding. So what I looked at with the numbers is that they are allowing over 6 shots per game to hit their target, which is, as you would expect, one of the worst in the leagues. That's right, like basically it's the teams that are over 6 are Sunderland and Stoke and Burnley and them. So that's quite dreadful. And their attack, it's not like it's been great, because they're only getting 3 shots. So those are all so it's not like this team is sort of massively running under expectations. They've just been bad. The one area where I would say they're running under expectations is the goalkeeping. Because if you remember, Adrian was one of the, I think statistically he was even the best keeper.
One of the best, yeah.
And they typically use the save percentage as the measure of keeper. And the one thing about that is that it's from all the literature I've read on it, it's incredibly random from year to year. And so I think last year he was sort of in the high 70s, and this year. Do you want to guess where they are with save percentage?
No, you guess it.
Well, I mean, I know it, so I don't have to guess it. It's 56%.
Okay.
So it's that's quite horrendous. I mean, it's not as bad as Southampton, who are at 28%, which I don't know how that happens. But
yeah, one more thing I'd like to talk about West Ham is that the signings that they've made this summers have been questionable, because I didn't think that they've actually ended up raising the standard or the levels that Slaven Bilic was playing. And before Slaven Bilic came in, the team that Sam Allardyce had, it had to be improved, and Slaven Bilic did that to quite an extent. But this season, I brought in signings that upgrade the standard. Although Simone Zaza was dubbed as a star signing, but the Italian has failed to impose himself, because it's again a welcome to the Premier League punch for him. He looks really frail in attack.
Yeah, I would like to talk to the people who say that he was a star signing. You know, I think those people haven't watched too much of Simone Zaza, but yeah, I think that's a nice point. I think even Jonathan Caleri, who a lot of people seem to like, hasn't worked out. I think Masuaku has probably been okay. You've mentioned about Nordtveit's struggles to adjust. Yeah. I think Mark Noble has taken a pretty big step back just from the players that were already there. And I think outside of sort of Lanzini, Michail Antonio, and Dimitri Payet, the team hasn't been very good. And Payet has missed, I think, 3 games or maybe 2.
Yeah, 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, but I know that
injuries. Diafra Sakho is currently injured. Vincent Reed is injured.
Yeah.
And
so let's not miss out on Slaven Bilic, because you mentioned about him and sort of the signings that are on sort of on his watch, and the telling news from West Ham was that they were going to give him an extension, and now they just sort of said, hold your horses, and we'll maybe revisit this. So what are your thoughts on Bilic as a manager, or whether he can turn this around?
Yeah, I read this on this page called Agent Edward, who proclaims himself to be quite reliable. He said that the West Ham board is supposed to have a meeting with Slaven Bilic in the coming days. This was reported on Saturday or Sunday, I guess. Right. So I think whatever Agent Edward reports has some amount of credibility in it, although it may not be completely credible and believable, but it has a glint of reliability in it. But I still think that Bilic has to be given some time to cope up with the pressure that he's currently going through, because his press conferences and post-match interviews suggest that he knows the club, and the injuries that West Ham are currently suffering from has injured themselves. Mm-hmm. So, who is injured? Aaron Cresswell is out, who one of their best players. So as soon as they return, I think West Ham are set to improve, and Slaven will.
I think they got a nice stretch in the schedule to do that, because the next like for the next 6 games they're playing Southampton at home, Middlesbrough at home, and then Crystal Palace away, Sunderland at home, Everton away, and then Stoke at home. So those are 6 games that I think they should get something out of. I mean, Everton have been good, but the other teams are certainly very beatable. But afterwards, they're going to have a brutal 4-game stretch where they play Tottenham, United, Arsenal, and Liverpool. So if they don't get something,
and these were the sides that were actually scared of playing West Ham. But now it seems like that fear factor has disappeared.
Right. That's a nice point. All right. Any other relegation teams that you think are sort of interesting to talk about?
Yeah, I think Sunderland, because they're really struggling. Even David Moyes has admitted that they'll be near the relegation zone.
Yeah. Any particular reason why you think they're struggling? Because they don't, what are some of your thoughts, and then I can add some of mine.
I think there's a clear lack of confidence in the way Sunderland playing. But although they did quite well in restricting Spurs to just a 1-0 win, but in attack, I think they look quite blunt, because Jermaine Defoe himself up front, he's quite aged, and although he's done quite well with Sunderland, I think they needed someone else to bring in more goals for them, and someone with pace. Didier Nadong has been brought in, and we're yet to see if he what he brings to the club. But I think Sunderland